Hello, my name's David Seaman, and this is the Three Lions Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions Podcast. My name is Russell Osborne, and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I hope I find you well in this sweltering heat. For those of us back home in England, we are experiencing a rather uncomfortable heat wave. They've given us a red alert, only the second time in the UK's history of this alert system have we been given a red alert. And to be honest, it's horrible. This sort of heat, well, it's the sort of heat more suited to parts of America, Florida and the like. Not nice. Not nice at all. Not pleasant. Anyway, I probably really shouldn't complain. Coming up, I will be joined by Asif Burhan, author of the new book, The Other Side of the Hand of God. We'll be chatting about that, the Ghana game, and his experiences of the World Cup. He has just returned. And speaking of those experiences, it was good to chat with Gaurav Singhvi recently on the pod. We took a look at the American side of things. That's episode 422. More of my observations and ramblings on that. Also coming up, as we did before with that Croatia review, look back, whatever you want to call it, we'll have some of your reactions to the game too. So, on to Ghana in our second group game in Group L. Hoping to continue where we left off after that second half against Croatia, really, weren't we? Boston appeared to be a cool, damp, drizzly environment. Perfect, really, wasn't it? Perfect. That's what we want. Now, the day before the game, a Ghanaian witch doctor, Nana Kwaku Bonsan, vowed to put a curse on Harry Kane for the England-Ghana game, saying, "I am working on Harry Kane. I have shown what I am capable of before, so I know what work I must do to stop him. I'm not wishing him serious injury. It would be just enough to stop him against my country. I will do my work so that it will help Ghana." Nonsense, really, when you think about it. Well, it seemed to have the desired effect. But it's silly stories like this that make the World Cup what it is. I don't know. Next we'll be having stories about octopuses predicting the winners of games. Anyway, let me just say, we don't have a divine right to win football matches. I've been watching England long enough. But I've seen various posts on social media saying that we should be beating the likes of Ghana. Nothing is a given. Back when the draw was made, I did say I had my concerns about Ghana. Let me see if I can find that. 17th of June. We were joined by Croatia, Panama and Ghana. Initially, I think it's a group we will progress from. But I don't think it's as easy as I've seen some make out. I don't think Ghana will be the pushover that people think they might be. Let's see. Thomas Tuchel made two changes to the side that beat Croatia in Dallas. Mark Gay came in for John Stones and Jed Spence in for Nico O'Reilly. Unbelievably, Jude Bellingham was winning his 50th cap. Amazing achievement, that, at just 22 years old. Now, I actually watched the game on the iPlayer, BBC iPlayer. They've managed to match up the 5 Live commentary with the footage, so it's all in sync. John Murray, who's been on the pod previously, was the lead commentator there. Really enjoy his commentary. Him and former England goalkeeper Paul Robinson. Good combination, those two. If you get the chance to listen to the 5 Live commentary for the game, I think it is sort of a 30-second delay to the actual game shown on the BBC. Something like that, but I quite enjoyed it. But it's fair to say Ghana, well, they were niggly. They frustrated us, despite us having pretty much total domination without scoring. Kane was just starved of chances in the first half. Damn that witch doctor. Not really getting an opportunity, did he? But at the same time, Ghana didn't really get forward either. But I was always conscious of the threat of Semenyo. And it was pretty much 40 minutes until he got the ball and done anything of note. But he was always a danger. So at half-time, it was 0-0. Maybe that was a bit of a reality check. Second half began. No early goal from Jude Bellingham this time. Thomas Tuchel made the changes. Saka on for Gordon. O'Reilly on for Spence. Roger on for Bellingham. Anderson on for Eze. Rashford on for Madueke. But none of those really had the desired effect. The closest we came was towards the end, when Nico O'Reilly headed against the bar, and Kane was the first to react, but he puts it over the bar. That witch doctor again. It also has to be said that we were lucky we didn't get caught on the break a couple of times. Pickford was quickly off his line in one instance and out of his box at one point during the second half, colliding with a Ghanaian player. And then Ezri Konsa was fortunate, I think, that VAR didn't intervene with a challenge he made inside the box. So, it ended 0-0. Frustrating? Yes. Surprising? Yes. And no. As I posted on Twitter after the game, 2024, 0-0 against Slovenia. 2022, 0-0 against the USA. 2021 Euros, 0-0 against Scotland. You can see where I'm going with this. 2016, 0-0 versus Slovakia. 2014, 0-0 versus Costa Rica. 2012, 0-0 against Italy. 2010, 0-0 against Algeria. There's more. You can go and find those, go back further. So perhaps it wasn't really a surprise. But it's not panic stations. Following this game, Croatia met Panama in Toronto. Croatia, well, they won that 1-0. So the Group L, now looks like this. We are top with 4 points. Ghana are second, also with 4. Croatia are third with 3 points. And Panama, well, they're bottom and out with no points. And of course, we meet them in New Jersey on Saturday night. Croatia, well, they meet Ghana on the same time, at the same time as we meet Panama. That'd be interesting to see who finishes second. Although that's sounding like me saying it's a given against Panama, which it's not. Right, let's hear from some of you guys who have kindly sent your thoughts on the game into the show.
Hi Russell, Charlie here from Gate 102. Yeah, England-Ghana, I mean, the second group game sort of continues in terms of the curse of us not winning, but it's one of them, it's a difficult game. I thought Ghana stuck to the game plan really well, which made it difficult. A very different game to Croatia. And we just couldn't break them down. I think that was the problem. I was a bit disappointed with our final third. I just thought we weren't really getting to the byline enough. We weren't testing the goalie enough. I think that's what went wrong. And to be fair, Tuchel tried changing it. You know, he put Madueke on the left, which I thought worked really well, as it meant we could cross the ball in a bit more with an outswinger. So he brought Rodgers on. But yeah, it just didn't really work. But you get games like this, you know, it's natural to go through a tournament where, you know, it's very rare that you win every game. I read the other day that I think the only team, well, the last team that's won every group game and ended up winning the tournament was Brazil back in 2002. So, you know, it's very common to not win every game in the group, but still plenty to be positive about. Like I say, the Panama game will probably be a totally different game, and hopefully we can come out on top and win the group.
So this was a depressing night for England, really, wasn't it? Not great. We couldn't get through the defence. We couldn't get past a very stubborn, it looked like back 10 at times from Ghana, and good on them for doing that. That was to their credit. And we just lacked a little bit of ingenuity to get through. Very depressing. It's another draw and a second match in a tournament for England. It's something that's happened to us over the last few tournaments as well. In those, we managed to get through, of course, to these knockout rounds, and we're guaranteed that again. But what England fans will be hoping for now is a much, much better, more incisive performance against Panama on Saturday to get the fans believing and to get the players even believing as well. That's what we need. It was a backward step yesterday, and we need another forward step on Saturday. Let's finish the group on top. Let's get some forward momentum. Tuchel, over to you.
Hello, Russell. Three Lions podcast. It's me, Gary from Walthamstow. I'm hoping tonight, as I walk back from Truman's Brewery in Walthamstow, that the disgruntled voices are echoing what everyone else is thinking in England. It's just that after the Croatia game, when everyone was harping on about a great result, when all it was 4 goals against an ageing side of Croatian has-beens. We now play against a distinctly average championship side, and we get found out and we can't play football. We can't score. We can't create chances. We can't get a shot on target. And this is what the World Cup's going to be about. Just imagine that against France or Spain. Will be embarrassing.
Now, let's welcome to the show Asif Burhan, England fan and author of a brand new book, The Other Side of the Hand of God. Asif, you okay?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, good to speak to you today.
Likewise, great to have you on. We've got 3 things I'd love to cover. We're gonna chat about the Ghana game. We're going to talk about this amazing book that you've written, and you've also been out for the World Cup, and you're going to share some experiences that you've had there. But first, we're talking the day after the Ghana game. Come on, where do we start with that?
Yeah, so I think I work in a local pub, and there was a lot of people watching the game, and there was a lot of frustration as the game wore on. It seemed like a familiar story for England that we played well in one game, and it's rare that we played well in 2. And we always seem to throw in a 0-0 draw somewhere in the group stage, and this seems to be the game. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still top of the group, and it's still likely we'll win it. But we hope this is just a bump in the road and not a sign of things to come. Yeah,
nothing's a given. But you're right. We do seem to have these 0-0 games in tournaments. But after that Croatia game, I just didn't see this one being that 0-0.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the Croatia game, Croatia probably started better and probably came onto us a little bit more, which suited our counter-attacking strengths. I think Ghana probably worked that out. Carlos Queiroz is obviously a very wily coach, and they were never going to open up against us. So they sat back, it gave us the low block. And while we might be able to play through low blocks in qualifiers, this is sort of like a warning sign for maybe later in competition when we will have to get through low blocks. And even if you look back to the quarterfinal 4 years ago against France may have been the favourites in the game, but they didn't allow us to counterattack them. They sat back and we had most of the game, and they probably counterattacked us. So a clever side is going to do that against us. So we've got to find another way to kind of score and win games.
Do you think this is a problem that Thomas Tuchel knows the answer to, or is he kind of learning on the job?
Yeah, well, hopefully he's learned a bit more from last night. I mean, the thing is, it's always better in these kind of situations not to be on the pitch, and the argument will again start up about whether he's taken the right players. So obviously, if you look at our kind of game breakers in the English league, Cole Palmer and Phil Foden are the 2 players who weren't picked, and they might have been, it's easy to say when they're not there, but they might have been the players to make the difference in a tight game where a team is defending low against us.
Yeah. You say you worked in a pub, or you work in a pub, and you were in the pub last night. What was the general feeling of the people watching it in there?
So it was the classic kind of England pre-match optimism. They're all asking me for scorelines, and everybody was going 3-0, 4-0, that kind of stuff after the last game. In their heads, Ghana aren't as good as Croatia, so if we can beat Croatia 4-2, then obviously we can beat Ghana by more. But I did feel like at best it might be a 1-0, and yeah, there was frustration that we weren't sort of attacking enough. But it's easy to say that when you're watching on TV. When Ghana play very tight, 2 lines of 4, it is difficult to get through, and I can understand why the England players struggled to create chances. But we did dominate possession, so it was only like the creating and taking chances where we kind of fell down a bit.
I think Ghana do deserve a little bit of credit because they were well organised. They knew their positions. They knew what they needed to do to spoil it for us, and that was their game plan. And the longer it went on, just keeping it goalless, they were more than happy with that. Obviously, they're probably through to the next round now.
Yeah, and I think Croatia will find it hard to beat them as well in the final game. So, yeah, in terms of England, that kind of bodes well that they'll play well against Croatia, and even like a narrow win for us against Panama will probably be enough for us to win the group. And let's hope we can do that, and then give ourselves kind of hopefully a better route into the knockout stages.
So not another 6-1 against Panama this time.
Well, the pressure might be slightly off because we are more or less through. So it's just a matter of kind of cementing that place and cementing top spot in the group. So maybe, but I mean, I settle for any sort of win at the moment just to make sure we win the group.
Yeah, is that all you can see, that we will win the group? You can't see it coming second?
Not at this stage. I think he'll probably make a couple of changes to go in the final game. Maybe start something like Marcus Rashford, and a few fresh faces might make that difference in that third game.
Yeah. Any particular England player you've been sort of impressed with so far, or anyone who's failed to live up to maybe expectations? I know two games in is always a hard thing to say.
Yeah, so especially in the first game, I thought Elliot Addison was outstanding in the first half, and then supplied that pass for Jude Bellingham's goal. And yeah, obviously Jude did well in the first game. He found it a bit more frustrating last night. But I think our best players might be the ones that come in later. So obviously, if Saka can get himself match fit, then he might have an important role to play in the later games. And obviously, Rashford coming on could be a dangerous player for us, especially in these games that tend to last about 3 days now. That these kind of game changes are the ones that could make the difference in the later stages.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, these games that tend to last. What are your thoughts on like the hydration break?
Yeah, so there was a lot of talk about England fans booing and the hydration break. And I mean, we've kind of got used to it a little bit now after 2 weeks. And the Americans seem to love it. And it seems to be in the stadiums and the fan parks, it seems to be a chance to get the cameras on the fans, and there's kind of dance cams and stuff like that. So, yeah, unfortunately, it seems like it's here to stay. And, well, hopefully it won't come into European football, but it seems to be kind of tolerated over there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Let's hope it doesn't sort of touch ground here in Europe and in England. There's only so much we can really say about the game from last night. It's 0-0, and that was it. So let's move on. Let's move on to a project of yours that I imagine has been some time in the making. You have written a book that's been published by the good guys at Pitch Publishing. It's called The Other Side of the Hand of God, inside the most notorious match in World Cup history. Now, we're speaking on the 24th of June, 2026. Just 2 days ago was the 40th anniversary of this particular game, England against Argentina in the Azteca. And you've written a book about one game of 2 incidences, really, but there's so much more to it, isn't there? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so growing up, I think Italia 90 was probably the first World Cup I remember. But as any kid would have done, I got a lot of magazines and sticker albums leading up to that tournament. A lot of the images were focused on the previous World Cup, which is in Mexico, and Maradona winning it and knocking England out. And as a kid, it always fascinated me that a guy could cheat in a World Cup and get away with it. And it's always sort of been famous because of that. And I think it kind of assumed more significance as the years passed, especially as Argentina in particular didn't win World Cups after '86 until 2022. It always kind of assumed more significance in their country. And Gary Lineker called it the most famous match that's ever been played. I mean, if you look globally, I mean, people talk about 66 here, but 66 doesn't have a significance outside of England, really. But this match, everybody in the world knows about Maradona. Everybody knows. If you showed them an image of that match, of him punching the ball past Peter Shilton, they all know what it means. And it's a match that fascinates everybody around the world for different reasons. But yeah, as a journalist, I've been involved in events around the match. So the auction of Steve Hodges' shirt, he swapped with Maradona, the referee auctioned the ball. I spoke to a couple of the England players about it, and it kind of ignited something in me that there's more stories around this match. And over the past 2 years, I've spoken to 13 of the England squad in '86. I've spoken to the commentators, the referee, journalists who covered the match, and England fans who went to the game. And we've uncovered lots of fascinating stories that are almost like you can't believe that actually happened. But '86 was a very different time in terms of watching football and following football. And I hope for anybody that reads it, it'll bring back a lot of memories. And for those who weren't born, kind of shows them a different type of football that they probably don't know now.
Yeah, I think you and I are of a similar age. You say about Italia '90 being sort of the first World Cup. This is very sort of similar to me. That's my first real one. But I do remember '86. My parents were having a chat about the game that was going to be played. I assume it would have been that evening. I'm not sure what time the kickoff time would have been here in the UK.
7 p.m.
Right. Okay. So that would have been right. That I remember sitting with them, and even my mum or my dad said to each other, "Oh, it's a big game tonight. Let's hope we beat them." And being what would I be? I think I would have been 7 or 8. And I was like, "Well, why?" I don't think either of them said it with much malice, but it was just like, we must beat them. And I was like, well, why is that? And then I got this sort of, I don't remember a great deal of what they actually said, but basically the Falklands came up. And it's just that and so many other sort of issues surrounding this one game is all encapsulated within this book.
Yeah, so there's always been a bit of a complicated relationship between England and Argentina. They were never a colony of the British Empire, but they did have very strong trade links. And it was the British, and probably in particular the Scottish, who kind of introduced football to Argentina. We built train lines in Argentina. They've always seen us as a bit of a kind of like a father figure in terms of their economy and the government. And then there was, of course, the match in '66 where Alfranzi stopped our players swapping with the Argentinians and the famous animal quotes. Yeah. And then every single match between England and Argentina has carried some sort of significance. Even the fact that I didn't actually realise, the fact that we wear red away shirts is because we played Argentina in 1951, I believe. And previously to that, we'd worn blue away shirts. But because we clashed with the Argentinian ones, we had to come up with another strip. And we won that match, and then it became a sort of lucky kit for us to wear red. So even that is down to playing Argentina. So we haven't met them that many times, and we haven't played them at all, incredibly, since 2005. Lionel Messi has never played against England.
Amazing fact that.
They've never played at the new Wembley Stadium, which must be the biggest nation not to have played there. But it kind of emphasises the kind of significance of the matches between us before '86 and after '86, but I think everybody remembers this one as the one that kind of create this kind of rivalry and controversy that always seems to exist in matches between England and Argentina.
Yeah, there's a very amusing part of the book, and someone I believe you spoke to, a particular spectator within the crowd.
Yeah. I think you're talking about John Vernon Powell,
with his hand gestures.
Oh, sorry. So that's Mark Woodruff, who's a Norwich City fan. So I spoke to. He lives in California now, and I kind of tracked him down through social media, and because he uses the image on his kind of header, And he had a very interesting story about how he and a group of friends were watching the World Cup in California and decided to hire a truck and drive down to Mexico. Just got tickets outside the stadium, and his image is one of the most used images in like all kind of photography books. It's captured beautifully the kind of feeling between England and Argentina. Him giving the middle finger to Maradona after he scored the greatest goal in history. And he was very, very good speaking to me. And he said that he's never really got any credit for being in that picture, that the photographers kind of got all the credit. But yeah, there's a good story about how he kind of traveled down to Mexico. And after the match as well, he kind of sort of got cornered by a group of Argentinian fans, and then later saw himself on Mexican TV as part of a documentary on English hooligans.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Oh, wow. And you say you spoke to the referee as well. How did you manage to, I mean, obviously it took you 2 years, but how did you manage to just get hold of these people?
So that was right at the start of the process, and due to the fact that he was auctioning the match ball that he had kind of taken at the end of the game, and he was speaking to me in French through translation by his son. So I probably didn't get to question him as much as I wanted, in depth as much as I wanted to, but he was quite adamant, and he's kind of maintained this line throughout, that he never kind of feels that he was to blame for the incident. If you actually look at where he's standing in comparison to the Hand of God incident, it's almost impossible for him to see that Maradona's raised his hand. And he always said that he was looking towards the linesman, and this is proof through the pictures that through the entire process, he's looking at the linesman for some sort of guidance, and the linesman doesn't react, and he just runs to the centre himself. So yeah, he said his conscience is clear over that match, and he in fact credits himself with the goal of the century, because he said that he played advantage a couple of times when England players were trying to foul him, that he could have easily blown up for free kicks, and he congratulates himself on doing a good job in that situation.
There was a video piece I saw recently with Gary Lineker. I think he was speaking to a German player. Was it Klinsmann? Maybe. I'm not sure. But at the start of the second goal, there's a real rash challenge on an England player, and forgive me, I can't remember who it was now. It may even have been Lineker, I don't know.
It was Glenn Hoddle. So Glenn Hoddle and Kenny Stenson went on the overlap, and Glenn Hoddle was attempting to return the pass to him. He actually mishit the pass, and he was then caught by the Argentinian defender Oscar Ruggeri. Yeah, this has been mentioned quite a few times. It's hit and miss whether you'd give a free kick for that, especially in 1986. The ball had already been played, and he saw Ruggeri's follow through that caught him. It wasn't a tackle that was clearly a foul. And if you look, the referee has actually seen the incident, and he gestures play on. So, yeah, maybe. But I think even using VAR, I don't think it's the kind of incident VAR would kind of look at, really, because it kind of is far away from the goal. It's easy to say now because Maradona picked up in the centre circle, but I'm not sure actually whether that would have been overturned. But it is another thing to debate.
Yeah, and this is the thing with VAR. You sort of lose the debate almost now. I mean, even though we're speaking the day after the Ghana game where Ezri Konsa was involved in an incident where VAR has reared its head. But I almost prefer the days without VAR, that sort of these goals happen and we can still talk about this sort of thing or write a book about it.
Yeah, so I mean, if people want to go down that route with VAR in this particular game, if VAR had been used, Terry Fenwick might have been sent off 4 or 5 times, even by his own admission. He clobbered Maradona. He intentionally clobbered Maradona to kind of take him out of the game. On the other side, just after the Hand of God, Gary Lineker turned and shot, and it ricocheted off Ruggeri's hand. I don't think it was a handball in 1986, but today I think that would have definitely been given as a penalty. And again, that might have changed the outcome of the match, and you might not have seen the goal of the century.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's a great book. As I say, it's 2 years in the making for you, but 40 years sort of in the making, nigh on. Is it going to be translated into Spanish?
Yeah, that's the hope. I think my agent is going to contact other publishers. I know there is an Argentinian book by an Argentinian journalist that was released 10 years ago. I haven't read it myself. It's only in Spanish. But yeah, there are other books out there on this match. But I'm pretty sure this is the first English language book.
Well, I've started reading it. I'm intrigued by seeing what else I'm gonna learn about it. It's called The Other Side of the Hand of God, inside the most notorious match in World Cup history. Obviously available through Pitch Publishing and various bookshops. Go support your local bookshop. You've been out at the World Cup, haven't you?
Yeah, so I returned on Friday after nearly 2 weeks, and part of the reason I wanted to go out was to visit some of the venues that were mentioned in the book. So I first went out to Mexico City and at the opening match at the Azteca, which was an incredible experience. I've been to the Azteca before, which is mentioned in the book, and it is probably my favourite stadium in the world. And I think they've done a great job actually rebuilding it without losing any of the kind of structure and the kind of steepness of the stands and the enclosed environment. And it was interesting that after that first match, where a lot of journalists, the whole focus was on that one match in Mexico City, and a lot of the journalists were saying that there should have been more matches at the Azteca because it's a proper football stadium and the Mexicans love football. I would put them in the top 5 nations of passionate football supporters, and any match that's played there will have a proper football atmosphere. And obviously Mexico are potential opponents for England in the round of 16 if we win our group. And the 2 previous World Cups that we played in Mexico, I actually spoke to Jeff Hurst about the preparations for the 1970, and for both of them in 70 and 86, England spent weeks before the tournament preparing to play at altitude, even going to play in high venues like Colombia and Ecuador in 70. And in 1986, they went to the Rocky Mountains to stay in Colorado Springs to kind of prepare their bodies to play at the altitude of Mexico City, which is 7,500 feet. If we have to play them in the round of 16, we haven't done any of that work this time. Mexico will have played 3 of their 4 matches at the Azteca, including tonight, and we'll have 3 days to prepare to go to altitude to play a team away from home. And I think I'm right in saying we've never won against Mexico in Mexico, so that will be a very, very tough match.
As you, as a spectator and just visiting Mexico City, I personally have never been. Do you feel the altitude? Just, is it slightly different?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of things you noticed, so you take your suitcase with all your toiletries and stuff, and one of the things I noticed the first time I went there was that everything had expanded in my suitcase. The shaving foam had come out because of the I think I felt it a bit more this time than the first time. I was a bit younger when I went the first time, and Mexico doesn't have a lot of escalators. So when you're climbing up and down the metro, it's all on by stairs. And I did feel it on that first night, kind of a bit breathless. Mm. And I talked to people who go running, English people who went running in Mexico City, and they said they found it quite tough. I don't have to play a match.
No.
Can you imagine how difficult that must be? But I mean, I'm no medical expert, but there's kind of 2 theories about playing at altitude. I think the Czech Republic, Czechia, have not stayed in Mexico and are doing the first alternative, which is to fly in, play the match, and apparently your body isn't affected. It doesn't have time to kind of adjust.
Right.
And the second theory is to go in 2 weeks before to give your body time to adjust and your red blood cell count to kind of multiply. So I don't know what England, I'm sure they've kind of studied this and prepared, but I'm not sure which theory they're going to use.
Well, we shall see. That's if we get there. That's the round of 16 potential. So that was the first game that you went to. Where else did you go?
Yeah, so I kind of went north from there. So following the kind of path of my book, I then went up to Monterrey, which is a city I've always been fascinated in because England played there in 86, and Monterrey was the only venue in 86 which wasn't at altitude. It was at more or less sea level, but it has a ferocious tropical climate, which I felt straight away. I mean, the temperature on the thermometer. It probably isn't too different to England today, but it has that kind of humidity that means that as soon as you leave your hotel, you need another shower. Oh. It was difficult to walk around in the day, and I saw locals walking around with umbrellas. In 1986, England had to play at 4 p.m. and at 4 p.m. It's difficult to even move. Luckily, this time, I think I watched the Sweden-Tunisia match at the new Estadio BBVA, which I think is one of the most picturesque stadiums in the world, just situated in front of a mountain. Yeah. But I think this time they've seen sense and played the Monterrey matches at night, and that allowed a Northern European team like Sweden to absolutely blow Tunisia away in that match. And that was an amazing experience, seeing the Swedish fans mixing with the Mexicans after the match. But yeah, I visited the stadiums where England played, where Gary Lineker famously turned his life around with that hat-trick against Poland, the goal that he said was the most important he ever scored. And wearing this shirt as well, I'm not sure many people recognised it, but a few people I spoke to remembered that England had played in Monterrey.
Okay.
So I actually got invited to at the Sweden-Tunisia match. I was sat next to a lecturer from Monterrey University, and when I was telling him about my book, he actually asked me if I would be willing to speak to his students about my book. So the next day he invited me into his university, and I spoke to 50 Mexican kids, like 18, 19 years old, and they were fascinated reading about or hearing about the kind of history of the World Cup in Mexico and how important Mexico is to kind of World Cup history.
Wonderful.
Of 86.
Oh, that's the connections that can be made during a World Cup. I assume there was no language issues, or you're fluent Spanish, are you?
No, he was actually an English lecturer, so he made sure that there were his English-speaking students, so it was good practice for them as well.
Yeah. Oh, great stuff. And then it was into the World Cup, into the States, and you were in Dallas for England's opener against Croatia. How was that?
Yeah, so that was a huge bit of good luck for me, because Dallas was sort of on my path north, and I'd already arranged to go to that group match in Dallas, not knowing that England were going to play there. And when the draw was made, and then England were drawn against Croatia, probably England's most attractive match of the group stage, I was very happy.
Stars aligned there.
So that was an incredible experience. Well, the Arlington Stadium is the one in the US that I wanted to visit the most. I've seen incredible images of it, and I'd never been to Dallas before, and it's quite a city. People have asked me what it's like, and the best way I can describe it is like living in an American movie set.
Okay.
Things you see in American films that you can't imagine would ever happen in England are happening all the time in Dallas. It's very hospitable people, but there's a lot of police on the street, armed police, and there was no problem whatsoever. The England fans mixed very well with the Croatians, and there's a huge American diaspora that are supporting England as well. So it felt like the stadium was maybe 60-40 in favour of England in that match. And yeah, the stadium was fantastic. And even though it was 35 degrees outside, it's been said that the roof was on, and it was climate controlled in the stadium to 22 degrees, which probably made for a better atmosphere and probably allowed England to play the way they wanted to play in that game.
Good to hear there's no issues. What have been your sort of general observations of what you've experienced the World Cup, but now you're home watching it on the telly? What sort of caught your eye? What have you enjoyed, or maybe not so much?
So, first of all, the football's been really good. I think in terms of the standard, like, I haven't seen many poor matches. And the other thing is that, and probably FIFA knew this before, is that from 1994, that the American people love a spectacle. So they are filling the stadiums, even though they might not know the teams that are playing, and they've got no interest in maybe the World Cup in general. They love an event, and they are going for an event, and they're making each match special in that way. At the fan parks as well, in each of the cities I've been to, have been very, very well populated, even though prices have been very, very high in the fan parks. I think a Coke was costing £6-7 and a beer maybe £12.
Wow.
But people are paying those prices, even the Mexican locals. the sad thing that I saw in Mexico in particular was that I felt, especially at that opening match, that many of the locals had no opportunity to go to that opening match. Ticket prices for that with the opening ceremony were averaging well over £1,000. So the chance for a local Mexican to go to that game was very small. The other thing which I didn't realise is that in Mexico, most of the World Cup matches are not available on free-to-air TV, only on a subscription.
Okay.
I think that a bit like the Champions League here, they were making one available maybe per day. So that meant that when you're walking around the city, very few people are watching matches in the bars. I was wondering why there was no interest, and then I realised they weren't actually available. Which means, apart from the Mexican matches, I don't think many people are following other games, which I think is quite sad.
Yeah.
That this World Cup might pass a whole generation by.
Yeah. No, I wasn't aware of that. There was talk in the run-up to the World Cup with regarding of broadcast rights that they were leaving it incredibly late for the likes of, I think, China and India to organise their broadcasting deals with FIFA. I assume that got all resolved in time for that first game.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons that FIFA have kind of justified the high prices, because we're living in a world where everything is being sold to pay TV, and Gianni Infantino said that these ticket prices are sort of subsidising the fact that we in Europe can watch all of these matches for free, and it would be very easy for FIFA to move to a pay model, and they're kind of hybriding that with the deal with Netflix over the next 10 or so years. But for now, we are lucky that we are able to watch all the matches in England for free, and maybe there is some justification in saying that the high ticket prices and food prices in stadiums are sort of supporting that.
Well, we shall see. Maybe as time goes on, maybe the next World Cup we'll see whether that continues, that trend continues in that way.
Yeah, people have asked me, like, would they go out? Should they go out for the World Cup? And obviously, if you are going to go, you need to be prepared to pay the prices that are on offer. I think if you're going to an England knockout match, I don't think you can expect to pay anything less than £1,000 for a ticket, to be perfectly honest. They're not coming down. I saw England fans arriving at Dallas Airport, checking their phones constantly, refreshing, looking for tickets in the hope that they would drop.
Yeah.
I think the going rate for the Croatia game was about $1,300, so about £1,000. And as the tournament progresses, I think those prices are going to stay high. That if England fans aren't going to go, there's plenty of other fans around the world that will fill those seats. So these kind of fears of empty stadiums, I don't think are going to materialise now. And if you are going to go to the World Cup, then you have to be prepared to pay the prices.
But do you fear that the atmosphere will be different or diluted in that respect?
So it's definitely a different type of fan. So I know you've travelled to a lot of tournaments in the past, and the idea of like the working class fan going to watch major tournaments is probably something that has passed. It's definitely a middle to upper class thing. I didn't see many children in the stadiums. So that is a worry going forward, because we're kind of creating this kind of elite level of people that are going to matches, and a lot of them are interested in like getting pictures and selfies, and there's that free Wi-Fi in all the stadiums, really good Wi-Fi, and I think it's helping those people kind of post things, and it's all about being there rather than maybe enjoying the football. But you could say that's maybe happening here as well, but it's kind of in a sign of the times, I think.
No, sign of the times. That was exactly the phrase I was going to say. I was watching the game last night with the 5 Live commentary, and John Murray commented that with the hydration break that he'd noticed as soon as that moment happens, the hydration break, everyone just reaches for their phone.
Yeah, so in the stadiums, as soon as the hydration break kicks in, I mean, the world goes to. In the US and Mexico, they go to adverts, but in the stadium, they put on a dance cam. So they put up all the really, really loud music, and it's all tailored to the nations that are playing. So I think when England played Croatia, they put on the Killers, and a couple of other songs, and to kind of get all the fans dancing, and the camera goes around and everybody's delighted to be on TV on these massive, great screens. I think the screen in Dallas was like half the length of the pitch, one of the biggest things I've ever seen. So yeah, so that is the kind of way that it's going now. And the Americans are all up for that kind of thing, and they are the majority of people in the stadium. So they're the ones that are kind of paying the prices for the tickets and making this World Cup happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what fans of those that sat in the stadium of 1966 would think watching it now. Asif, thank you so much for joining us, telling us about your trip. Of course, about the book. It's called The Other Side of the Hand of God, through Pitch Publishing. I wish you all the very best with it. And yeah, go grab it. Go read it.
Thanks, Russell. A pleasure to speak to you, and hope you enjoy the rest of the World Cup.
Thank you so much to Asif there. Looking forward to cracking on with that book. Now, I will be totally honest with you. Even when I looked at our group opponents for an episode back at the back end of last year, once the draw had been made, finding a Panamanian contact was a struggle, let alone an English-speaking one. I did eventually find a guy called Manuel. He actually lived in New Zealand. I've spoken with him since. We're trying to sort something out with him, but what with the time zone and, more importantly, his own work schedule, which I will always appreciate. I always appreciate when I've got guests on, as they give their time for me and the show. So we may have to put Panama to one side. I did once again put more feelers out there, but came up against a similar brick wall, especially given the time frame that I wanted to try and turn it around in. But without wanting to sound disrespectful, in a way, I'm glad it's our last game. Panama are already out, which does make it a little easier. But I always like to hear from opposing fans. But the fact is, we've only met Panama once before. That was back in Russia 2018, when we were 5-0 up by half-time, thanks to 2 goals from John Stones, 2 from Harry Kane and 1 from Jesse Lingard. Kane would eventually get his 3rd for his hat-trick, although this was the one where you may remember he claimed it after it came off the back of his heel following a Loftus-Cheek shot. Felipe Baloy would eventually get a consolation for Panama, as it ended 6-1 in England's favour. And just looking at Panama's results in the group games so far, they've done fairly well. I have only seen the highlights of each of their games, but they lost 1-0 to Ghana in the last minute, and they lost 1-0 to Croatia. So perhaps it may not have been the 6-1 walkover as it was back in 2018. But if I do manage to track a Panamanian down, who knows, I may well get it out in time before the game kicks off. But thank you as always for tuning in. It is always appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed it. Once again, thanks to Asif for his time. Go check out that book. I will be back with you very soon with some more ramblings. I'm also looking at an episode on our next destination. You may remember I spoke with the Dallas Tourist Board, the Boston and the New Jersey Tourist Board. Well, I'm looking at speaking with either someone from Atlanta or, if we come second, someone from Toronto. So hopefully that is still to come. Let's leave it there. Thank you as always for tuning in. Don't forget you can follow the show on social media. Just search 3 Lions Podcast. Give it a like, give it a follow, give it a rating at your podcast provider. That would be nice as well. Let's leave it there. Until the next time, take care of yourselves. Cheers.